Jumping into Illini basketball, which a little more excited after last night, but we got to talk about Friday night first.
Yikes.
UT-Rio Grande Valley came in and almost pulled the shocker. But would it have been a shocker, really? I don't have the final score written down, but Illinois does squeak out a win. I think they won by, I want to say 8, like 92 to.
I think it was like 9 because I remember
like
thinking that it was not nearly that score does not indicate what actually happened in that ball game.
Yes. Illinois does pull out the win. Thankfully, they were without Andre Curbelo, without Trent Frazier, without Grandison. And I feel like one more might have been out, or am I wrong? Pajimski?
I don't remember.
I don't
think he played.
But they were shorthanded. And what was their team name? I loved their team name. Vaquero?
I don't know, but the color
yes,
on the
graphics.
scoreboard was really kind of throwing me off.
Yes.
The final score of that game was 94-85, so 9 points.
9 points, yeah. Just an ugly performance. I've already kind of forgotten about it. I didn't write anything down. I honestly sat there and watched that game like I was watching an Indiana versus West Virginia game. Like I watched it like I didn't care what the outcome was. That's where I was Friday night as a mindset. It was close and I wasn't on the edge of my seat. I wasn't nervous. I had no feelings towards what was happening. And that's not me. That's not good. Yeah. But that was just the state of where we were on Friday night. It was like, all right, we're without our 3 best players. This team's not playing good already. Like, expect the unexpected. And as we were driving through Indiana on the way home that day, I saw the line. It was like 26.5, Illinois by 26.5. And I saw the tweets that those players were out. I was like, all right, I'm hopping on this. And I threw some down because I knew that team should not be favored over anyone by more than 20 points. And this team was like 290 in KenPom coming in. And they almost pulled it off.
It was atrocious. It was atrocious basketball. Just to give you a little reference point as to where I was in my life at the moment. We had dinner at my brother's house this was the day after Thanksgiving. So we had a second Thanksgiving dinner at their house. And then we went back to my parents' house, and then my parents don't have great internet capabilities. And this, of course, was the one game. Well, this one of 2 games where you had to stream it. So we had it not been a close game, I probably wouldn't have cared. But my dad and I found a way to make it work in their house, and it wasn't great. So we were just sitting there watching it buffer over and over again down the final stretch. So not only was the game itself atrocious, but the viewing experience having to do that was awful. So I'm over the Big Ten Plus experience. That's
I will say
goodbye.
This one was
a much better one. It was a much better quality.
They had Trent Meacham on the call, and I think they brought in some people that at least knew what they were doing. So the call was better.
It was a better production. Anyway, the game itself, it was ugly. We talked about it. They again had no true ball handler on the court. They needed every single one of Kofi's 1,000 points or whatever he scored to get that win, him and Plummer. I mean, if it had not been for Kofi on the court or Plummer to put up 20 some points, whatever he had, like there was no shot. Well, Illinois had nothing. And then down the stretch, every time Rio Grande Valley brought the ball over the half court line, it was Illinois couldn't get a stop, or they would foul every single time. It was awful. I mean, it was like I was just like, what is happening? It was the whole point guard situation we talked about last week. Clearly that's an issue. The lack of depth there. But they've been discombobulated. They haven't had consistent rotations. They haven't had consistent roster, and it showed. It showed in that game. I mean, Illinois deserved to lose that game.
Yeah.
Thankful they didn't. Thankful they pulled off the win and didn't get upset. Drop a third game, this one to a very low rated team. But it was definitely not a pretty outcome. Not a pretty game, at least.
You mentioned Kofi and Plummer. Kofi scored 38. Plummer scored 31. So in my group chat, as soon as the buzzer sounded and they read off the stats, the first question someone asked in the chat was, when was the last time Illinois had two players scored 30 or more in the same game? So I went back to ESPN schedule, because when you look at the schedule, it shows high score, high rebounder, high leading assist. And so I just went down and every game that one player scored 30, I looked at the box score. So I did my own research. I went, ESPN schedules go all the way back to the 05 season. And there was never a time when Illinois had that. 05 team didn't have a single player score 30 the whole season, which is kind of a surprise. And then 2 minutes after I looked that up, ESPN tweeted, or not ESPN, Illini Stats tweeted, or Jeremy Werner tweeted. Someone tweeted, I think it was Jeremy. The last time two Illinois players scored 30 or more in a game was December 3rd, 1990.
Wow.
Andy Kaufman and Deion Thomas. Kaufman scored 46, Deion scored 34 in a 2 overtime game. And then one of the replies was, when was the last time it happened in regulation? And Jeremy said one of the media members just asked Kent Brown that, and it looked like Kent was going to kill him because it took him so long. It took him so long to find that stat. They'd have to keep going to find it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was, there was something else from Friday that I was going to mention, but I can't remember. But yeah, Kofi scored 38. Plummer scored 31. Plummer hit 7 threes, I believe, in that game, which he was 6 threes. Yeah, he was on fire, which they needed every single one of them. But even with that win, coupled with the Cincinnati loss last week, Illinois dropped out of the rankings for the first time since the end of the 2019 season. No, 2020 season. Towards the end of that year, they were out of the rankings until they went on the big run late. So they're not ranked as of now, unranked team, but they did get another win last night, Monday night, 10-point win. Again, did not write the score down. I believe it was a 10-point win over Notre Dame. The Fighting Logan Lee's
yes, 10-point
place of residence.
Yes.
Notre Dame's not very good. No. Remember when the Big Ten ACC Challenge pairings came out, and we were like, wait, Notre Dame was bottom of the ACC. Why do they get Illinois coming off a 1 seed? Like, this is not a very good matchup. And then Kofi came back, and we're like, holy cow, Illinois is going to win by 20. And then this happens, and it was a fairly close game. Once again, Illinois without Curbelo, without Verdonk, but Grandison and Trent Frazier miraculously show up in uniform.
That was incredible.
Earlier on Monday, John Rothstein from CBS tweeted all 4 of them are highly unlikely to play. I said throw all of your money on Notre Dame +4 at the time, maybe money line. Logan said something like, oh, this is going to be fun. Or you said something, you quoted the same tweet, I think.
Yeah. I said something about Notre Dame by 20 or something like that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And then the reporters, the Illini beat guys, get to the arena, and Grandison's in uniform warming up and Trent Frazier's in uniform warming up. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's a boost. And it worked. I mean, I don't think Illinois was ever, the biggest lead was 15, I think, and that was in the second half.
Yeah.
First half was pretty close, but once again, Plummer came out and hit a couple threes, but then he went ice cold and missed like 6 straight. Kofi was Kofi, ho-hum 28 and 8, but it was the other guys. It was RJ Melendez got the start, hit 2 early threes, looked really, really good. Luke Goody hit an early 3. Both of them are freshmen, came in and played outstanding for freshmen and fill-in roles. DeMonte was the point guy because there's no ball handler when Curbelo's not out there. I think he had like 8 assists. And at halftime, he was puking in the trash can in the locker room. I mean, it's the flu has just run rampant on this Illinois basketball team, because that's why Grandison was out. Podziemski had the flu before Grandison, I think. Switch was running rampant. DeMonte's out there with the flu, playing a huge number of minutes. This game just came out of nowhere, honestly. And I felt like once Frazier and Grandison, we saw them in uniform, and the team was like, all right, we're getting some of our guys back. It's like they kind of got us. I don't want to say a swagger because I feel like that's thrown around too much.
Confidence.
But they got a little confidence. Yeah, they've got most of their team back. We're at home. We can do this. And they came out and they played well. They played pretty dang well Monday night.
Yeah, it's that offense is going to run through Kofi when he's on the floor and he gets his position, and there's hardly a team in the country that's going to be able to stop him. What went well last night, though, as you touched on, is that the other guys around him were making shots. And that's just something Illinois has not been healthy / altogether or making shots this season. Those two things have not happened simultaneously. And last night, other than not having Curbelo and Verdonk to an extent, but those things happened. And Trent, he became the facilitator and did a fine job of it. They were gritty. They were getting down. They were going after loose balls, loose rebounds. It looked like a totally different team. That first half was one of the best first halves or single halves we've probably seen from this team in a while. Yeah. Collectively, just getting production from all areas of the court. It was nice to see. It was nice to see. No, Notre Dame is not a great team. They're probably going to be definitely bottom half of the ACC. Yeah. But they still have players. I mean, they still have a couple post players that are pretty darn good. They're not able to stop Kofi, but they can do some things. They'll have some impressive nights this season. But it was just nice. It was nice to see Illinois come out, surprise some people with some of the health of some of the players and pull out that win. It was definitely a nice little bounce back after what had been a very rough week right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Kofi goes for 28 points, 8 rebounds, Plummer 21 points, and only 3 threes, which 90% of his scoring has been from behind the arc. So for him to score 21 while only hitting 3 threes is pretty good. Although a lot of those came from the free throw line late. Kofi at one point was 10 of 11 from the field. He finished 11 of 16 because they started hacking him every time he went up for a shot. And I think he attempted like 12 free throws. No, he was 6 of 9 from free throw line. But yeah, Illinois shoots more than 50% from the field, 40% from 3, almost 80% from the free throw line. They won the rebounding battle, 19 assists, 12 turnovers, just all around a pretty good performance from the Illini, and much needed against the team that you should beat like that. The line going in was 4, and you cover it. You beat the spread there. So an impressive win for Illinois. And even the Orange Crush was getting some national publicity. They were chanting "Fire Nagy" during the game a couple times. TMZ,
or were they chanting "Hire Nagy"?
See, I don't know.
There was some debate about that too.
Yeah. I think if anything, the first one was fire. The second was higher because of the Notre Dame thing. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. So now we get some Big Ten games. It's December 1st, and we're going to have a Big Ten game here in a couple days, which is weird, but I love it. Get some early marquee games going on. Illinois hosts Rutgers on Friday night, right? Yeah, the 3rd, Friday night.
Yeah.
7:00 Eastern time on ESPN2. This Rutgers team, not very good. So if you have the same crew that you had on Monday for Illinois, plus maybe Curbelo, no one knows anything about his status as of now. Underwood has had no updates, but even without Curbelo, I think this is a very, very, very winnable game. Don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. And if that same team comes out against Rutgers, they'll win. But had that same team been there all season, they'd be 6-0, or they'd be 7-0, at least 6-1.
Yeah.
That's a lot of ifs apparently. But yes, it's certainly a winnable game. I think Illinois still has the talent to beat a lot of teams in the Big Ten. But a lot of it's going to depend on health and everything else going on with this team. Rutgers, I mean, they're better basketball than they are football right now, for what it's worth. But either way, I mean, they're certainly going to be, more towards the bottom of the conference, especially with being at home. I think that's a game they're going to need to definitely go for. Really need to start the conference season off strong, get a home win. That would be nice. Did they lose?
Rutgers is 3-3.
Rutgers at home last year?
I don't think so.
Or was it on the road? I remember the loss to Rutgers because I was at my parents' house. Let me look at the schedule.
The 2020 season.
It was on the road. It was at Rutgers. They lost right before Christmas.
Right before Christmas. Yep, I remember it. Yeah. Yep, I was at my parents too. This year, Rutgers is 3-3. They started the year with an overtime win over Lehigh, and then they beat Merrimack by 13, 48-35. Woof. Then they beat NJIT. But then they've lost the last three. They lost to DePaul in the Gavitt tip-off game by 3, and then they lost to Lafayette by 2 at home, and then they lost to UMass by 2 on the road. They play Clemson in a couple hours as we are recording, so they'll have another game on their record before they play Illinois. They play Clemson tonight, so a game you should win. That's what it boils down to. A game you should win on at home, probably by double digits, unless we see Rutgers come out and just blow the doors off of Clemson and look like world beaters tonight, which could happen. Likely not, but unless that happens, I expect a win from the Illini this week. We are going to record another episode before the Iowa game, so we'll talk about the Iowa game on the next episode. So only one game to preview this week with Illinois.